Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the south-afrifur podcast. You're listening to myself, Ivik Wolf here. We're pre-recording this interview with Azizul, also known as Joe. You are the creator, I believe, of Rimba Racer.
One of the creators, yeah.
One of the creators.
Don't want to take all the credit.
Just take as much as you can. So firstly, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe also the sort of idea behind Rimba.
Okay. Right. Well, first of all, hi guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I do? I mean, in Glue Studios at least. I'm mostly involved in the production side. They've got me labeled as creative director, but I'm not sure that's entirely accurate because I sometimes go down to the floor and end up doing some stuff as well. But mostly it's overseeing projects and how they're like managing the production and how they're packaged properly. And in the case of Rimba Racer, at least in season 1, I was the director, among other things.
Yeah.
I also ended up writing some small music pieces, animating some small shots, rigging most of the characters for animation. And as well as overseeing, because when you're director, you got to oversee every aspect of the production. So I was heavily involved in season 1. And in season 2, I sort of dialed back my role a bit. And again, I'm labeled as assistant director. But I also wrote 11 out of the 13 episodes, taking over from Chiren, who you spoke to last week.
Yeah.
And it was but as far as like overseeing and approving shots, I took a step back. It was mostly in the writing process and overseeing the animatics and the editing. Yeah.
So out of the two, which do you prefer, writing or directing?
Directing is hectic. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of your time, and at many times you don't enjoy it because there is a lot of stuff to go through. But not to say I did not enjoy it. I mean, I did really enjoy the process. But I am more comfortable in my role in season 2 because for one thing, it allows me to focus on other things as well while still being involved in the project. And I gotta say, writing is fun. Writing is really fun.
Yeah, I think what's it? Man, how do I keep on forgetting people's names? I'm terrible with names, just by the way. We got the same sort of sense from our previous guest as well when he was actually mentioning that. He said that writing did seem to be a lot more fun because you can obviously make your, obviously since he was also a voice actor, he could give his character the best lines.
Yeah. Well, Chiren is the kind of guy who takes pleasure in the fact that he can just write 2 words, "they fight," and then the studio has to choreograph a whole scene around that bastard. But I mean, writing is lots of fun, especially when when you actually like the project you're working with and you like the characters involved in it, and there's plenty of opportunities to put in the cool stuff that you want to put in, gags, lines, interactions, drama, action, whatever. Yeah.
So Chiren kind of mentioned that you were sort of the powerhouse behind what Rimba Racer is today. I'm not obviously you're here to sort of tell us exactly how far that kind of process went. What exactly were you sort of in the initial stages of creating it, or what was your overarching role in the beginnings of the project?
Okay. Again, I don't want to take credit away from the other people involved in the project, right? To say I was the powerhouse behind everything, that's not entirely true. Because for the project, there's at least 5 or 6 people constantly checking each other, not checking each other out, but double checking everything we do to make sure that we don't uh, like cross any weird lines or do something we're not supposed to, and everyone has the same picture of what we're trying to do. If that makes any sense. Everyone's on the same page of what it is we're trying to do. As for how the thing started, all right, funny story. The original, Glue Studios was approached to create sort of like a short series, a series of short animations for a fast food chain, right? That's how it started out, and it was at that time. I think there were only maybe 8 of us in the company, and we were sitting around this big coffee table and just bouncing ideas off each other. What do we want to do? I can't name the fast food chain, but it's a really huge fried chicken chain, right? But they wanted us to create a series of short animations to advertise their products, as well as so that they could make those little like toys that come with their meals and stuff. So we're throwing ideas around, and it's one of our interns who brought up the concept of how about cute little animals racing around on cars, and we just started riffing off each other and building on top of that. And in the end, what we came to was, this is not something we want to do for that project. It's something we probably might want to keep and develop for ourselves. So we literally just put that on the shelf and focus on other things. But that's how the idea started, from one of our interns. And when that whole interaction with the fast food chain was over and done with, we came back to developing this idea. So obviously it's not cute animals, small cute kitty animals driving around in cars anymore. That's what it evolved from. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, one of the more interesting questions that I do want to ask about, I think, just creating things like this within sort of Malaysia and things like that. I've been doing a little bit of research in respect to what they call Cinema of Malaysia. I'm not sure if that's connected to what you guys are doing.
Yeah, probably not very, but yeah, please go on. Yeah.
So, I know, for instance, depending on certain kind of governmental things and things like that, there has to be approval and whatnot. Are you guys just purely independent, or is there some sort of funding that comes from outside, or from either private benefactors or a public benefactor or anything like that would be able to sort of bring, investors that could bring things like this to life?
I see where you're getting at. Well, first of all, we don't need any government or approval to start doing projects. It's not that kind of overarching censorship thing, no. But regarding funding, how we started off, at least, it was a pitch at a competition. That's how we started out. Just to see how much interest it could generate, or what other people thought about it. So we submitted it to there's a competition, an annual competition run by the Media Development Corporation here in Malaysia. It's sort of like an IP competition for comics, games, and animation, and people pitch their concepts, and you get a tiny bit of funding to develop like a prototype or a pilot episode or something, right? And that's where we first submitted the idea for Rimba Racer, and we won for that for our particular category, for animation. And we even brought it to other sort of like pitching competitions as well, where we could network with other people, with other broadcasters. I think we brought it all the way to Korea and China and stuff, just to see, because at this stage networks are very particular about things like demographics, or who are you aiming for, commercial potentials. So you gotta put all that stuff together while pitching. And also, since this was our first time for Glue Series, at least, to do trying to do a TV series, trying to market it abroad and stuff, we had to actually. There's very little instances where anyone's just allowed to do anything they want and hope they can sell it when it's done.
Yeah.
The development has to be at the very beginning, because those things are very specific, like target age groups or the kind of animation you're making, and that's all the stuff we had to pick up at the very beginning of the project before we even started writing or designing, so we could know exactly who we wanted to cater this for.
All right.
So that was the pitch, and the funding for the actual project came later on, when there was enough interest and context, generated from all those initial, meetings and stuff. We got a grant to produce the first season, of Rimba Racer. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. Scratch, I'm not sure if you want to ask any questions, or if you have one just at the top of your head.
Sorry, 1 second. Just yeah. Actually, I can't really think of anything.
Okay.
Hold on. Sort of with regards to pitching the new idea. Sort of yeah. Actually, more in the creation section of that. How long did it take you guys to sort of flesh? How many iterations does it take for something like this, like a this thing that it would eventually evolve into like a completely formed show with arcs and characters and a very unique visual aesthetic to it? Like how many iterations does it take to get through to something like that?
I think up to the end it kept changing.
Sure.
Changing not in the sense that we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, I think Chiran mentioned this last week, that from the very beginning we had sort of like a very initial idea of the overall story arcs and who the characters and what their roles were in it. I think the biggest changes would have been the largest number of iterations would have been in the design, the visual aspects of it, like how the characters look, how the cars are gonna look, and some of them got changed like really late in the process. Even in the middle of an episode, we could change. Yeah, we would switch the design of the car. I mean, because and it's nice that the pipeline allows us that even if something's animated, and even if you make a design change, you can just switch it out, but the animation's still there. So I mean, for example, I think we pretty much finished the first 2 episodes, and then I mean, if one person says it, okay, you can sort of like ignore that. But when 2, 3, 4, 5 people say the same thing, you sort of have to listen to that. So one example is like Crom's car, Crom the crocodile.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
His car, the heavy metal. Initially, well, the feedback we kept getting was that it looks too much like a cucumber. It was too rounded, too smooth. And we're like, what? Where the more you look at it, it's like, how the hell did we miss that? Right, so back to the drawing board, we had to, like butch it up, tank it up a bit, and then switch it out. Yeah, square it off, add, some nice, more aggressive lines and edges here and there, and replace it inside an animation, the episodes that we already finished. So things keep changing. And that's in terms of design, at least. In terms of story, sometimes like if it runs over the allotted like 20 minutes, you gotta change things up, like trim stuff out or change the sequence of events to make it fit into that episode without really affecting the point of the episode, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's very much, things just keep on changing until it can't change anymore, which means You run out of resources, you run out of time, or you run out of energy. One of those things, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, with all of that sort of like work and everything like that, one of the questions that I do want to ask is that like we were actually talking about tropes with Chirin last week, but like we want to get your idea on this as well. Like when it comes to the particular tropes that you have about something like corporate greed and so on and so forth, like what kind of message do you think that you guys wanted to send the demographics?
A message. Yeah, it's funny because we get this question a lot during interviews. Is it, are you, yeah, you're doing stuff with animals? Are you trying to send an environmental message? You know, you have stuff dealing with evil corporations. Are you trying to send a message there? But in the end, I don't think any of us in the group, even when writing or producing the stories or the animation, I don't think we're going for that sort of message. If anything, the message that we're trying to portray to the show is how good it is to have friends or do the right thing. It's simpler messages for kids, you know. Like if something bad is going on, you have to stand up against it. You can't do things alone. It's always good to rely on friends. So simpler things like that. The whole thing about the corporations and the greed and the inner, you know, machinations of the tournament, that's details which sort of like color the animation a bit more for perhaps an older audience, those who are looking for a bit more detail. But the simpler message is all about that friendship, mostly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and like I've been trying to piece this entire thing together because it was obviously, I believe, Farahani, your administration executive, who messaged us first and asked us whether they could do a screening at our convention coming up, which is pretty much how we went down this entire road. And then after that, I think Khadija actually started sort of speaking to me as well as a social media coordinator and things like that. Was there ever a point that anybody was actually like, what was I'm not sure if you were even privy to any of this kind of information, but was there ever a point that somebody said, obviously we are a furry station and everything like that, so who came up with the idea that maybe we should be marketing towards a more niche group of people?
That's a good question. I mean, like the whole decisions on marketing and who do we contact and stuff, I don't really handle that. That's mostly other people. Like I said, I'm more in charge of just the production of the show itself.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I don't think we were, when making the show, looking for a very specific audience. Like specifically furries, or I think we were just trying to make it something any kid would enjoy watching, anyone from that age group, regardless whether or not they're into animal type characters, because the way our season 2 director Melissa, she pointed out that we don't really see these characters as animals. They are people in animal makeup. We still think of them as normal people, but it's just the visualization of them comes across in these animal forms. Right? So we're not actually thinking of them as animals.
Okay. But I mean, the obvious crossover would happen at like a particular community that pretty much does almost exactly that for fun.
Yeah, true. I mean, there'd be a certain group of people who would be more interested in that particular approach, right?
So, as a question, like while you were sort of working in the director chair or the pretty much creator chair and everything like that, how do you prepare for a day at the office? What exactly was sort of like a general day at the office like?
A day at the office. Well, it's more like a day and a night at the office. Well, first thing you do is pick yourself up from the floor.
Yeah.
and you
In the same
remove,
office.
remove all the evidence of the crying and the weeping. Yeah,
Make
every
the
day.
beds under the desks.
But mostly every day began with just checking what was done from the day before. I mean, that's how it starts, and from there you just get to see you see what needs to get done for this particular day. It's a daily. I wouldn't say it's a grind. It's a routine, right? But that's pretty much what it is. I mean, how I divided my time, since I'd be, jumping between different departments in the studio. It usually starts with overseeing animation, and then I don't try to interfere too much with the art department, because we have a head who does that. But they do come to me for approvals or whether it fits the story, right? So sometimes just pop by there. And normally one of the last things we do, that I would do in the day at least, is go to the post-production side, like seeing how the compositors are turning things out, how the music is fitting in, are the edits, are they tying up together nicely, is the flow of the episode, does the flow of the episode still work, or do things need to get changed? So so it's almost in the like that order of pre-production, production, and post-production. That's how I basically ran through each day.
Were there any particular more difficult characters that you had to sort of be able to try to figure out how or why or what they would sort of meld in with the rest of the sort of group? I mean, you've got a very, very wide variety of animal types.
Okay, looking back, I mean, one of my biggest regrets of the season 1 cast would be Ua, the monkey, and Cuckoo, the chicken.
Yeah.
Because I mean, from the start, people were saying that they're just some joke characters to fill out the roster. But later on, I mean, in hindsight, looking back on the series and stuff, it's a shame that they weren't more involved in this story, because you have like 10 racers and 2 of them are just extras. It's kind of a waste, right?
Where one of them wins the final race. Sorry.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that also led to a very conscious decision for season 2, where every racer is involved now in the overarching story. I mean, there's no more like free rides, just sit in the back characters.
Okay.
So your question was, which were the hardest ones to fit in with the rest of the cast? I think those 2, because every episode we constantly thinking like, we have 2 characters, what are they doing on the show? So they were set up just to be that, visual gags, comedy and stuff, but not really overall like imperative to what's going on, which I find is kind of a shame. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to type this out, but I wanted to type it out anyway. There's a little bit of an echo now all of a sudden. Do you have a pair of headphones, maybe?
A pair of headphones. Okay, I could try to...
Or a headset.
Let's try to set this up.
Sorry.
Okay.
It suddenly just popped up that like I can hear a little bit of an echo. I think maybe we found clearer air. I don't know.
Right, hold on a sec.
No worries.
No worries. Quality entertainment.
Okay, you guys still there?
Yep.
Yeah.
You are still here.
Hello?
Awesome. That's a lot
Hello,
better.
yes.
Can you hear us?
Hi.
Oh, no.
Oh. It means that I think the headphones are probably now picking up absolutely nothing, because the headphones, I don't know, I get this happen to me a lot.
It happens. Should I put on the jazz?
Yeah, we can put on some smooth jazz.
Don't tempt me, I will do it.
No worries.
Where's my elevator music? Here we go. Turn it down a little bit. There you go. Just a little bit of background tunes.
Is this like going on? I can't hear it.
Yeah,
so...
it's on a different audio channel.
Okay. Wow. Smooth jazz for just such an occasion.
Yep.
I'm wondering if that's. I'm just wondering if that's like a. I'm pretty sure that that's like, because I know that sometimes when I plug in my headset to pick up, sometimes it gets cut out by Skype. It should be a Skype issue, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
Like settings, audio and video settings should probably fix it.
Mm.
And then just check audio, microphone has to be there.
Yeah, Skype is a little bit meh. I mean, we prefer Discord for good reason.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll get there shortly. Oh, he's dropped out of the call. Okay. I'll see if we can add him back. Alright, he's trying to sort things out. Apologies for the mild inconvenience. Hope the jazz is helping.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of questions that we can definitely go on here. In fact, him talking about ooh-ah is something that somebody approached me about last week after hearing the episode, and they're like, I had questions about ooh-ah and the chicken.
Oh yeah, sure.
And what their entire sort of purpose was, so we can actually definitely work on that and look at that as a question as well. Yeah. So, and
how they got to each of the characters. I mean, what's the trait? I mean, there's always that stereotype of there's something in each of the very characters that you could sort of use or accentuate through their actions or whatever, or their visual design or their mannerisms or all that crap. And thank you, Ben Sound, for the jazz piano. Royalty free as long as I mention where it's used. Or where I got it from.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it like piano or like what instruments?
Yeah, it's like some piano music.
Ooh.
Very like sort of slow lounge kind of thing. Not like sort of Nina Simone darkened thing. But yeah, okay, let's see if we can get him back in the call. Can you try that?
Sweet. Button, where's the button? Wait. Add people. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Welcome back.
Good. Okay, hey, all right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all right. The CPU is sort of like encased in a sort of like cabinet, so pulling it out just to see the back is kind of cumbersome. Never mind. Yeah. Okay, all right. So
glad you're back. Sorry for that.
Yeah. So what were we talking about just now?
We were actually. I think if I remember correctly, we were busy talking about the outsider characters, that being in UA and.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we made it a point so that every character on the race, like all 10 of them, are more involved in the story. Each of them has a specific role. Each of them has an effect of the course, the things that happen over the season and stuff. Yeah, so that's one change we made.
But I mean, with those two characters, obviously they had no voice lines, I believe, in the first season. How did you make that kind of transition between first and second season then?
Voice lines. I'm sorry. Which characters?
Ua and I want to say Beaks, but not Beaks. Cuckoo.
Oh yeah. Well, Ua and Cuckoo, they're not in the second season anymore. Yeah. We changed up the racing roster.
Okay.
So there are a few new characters, and Yeah, so all of them have speaking roles now. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense because, I mean, like, I was actually, because we were talking about it while you were fixing things up. Is that, like, I actually had a question from somebody who was listening last week who said, but what about these two characters? What happened to them, or what's going to happen to them, or what was their real purpose, beyond attempting to be, I think, what's a comedic effect in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was primarily their role. Yeah, as visual gags, comedic side characters. Yeah.
Okay.
But we also switched out what's his name? Rex, right? Because after the events of the first season, he just does not have a desire to stay in the game anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how much we can reveal, but even though he's not in the second season, his story does continue. Where in our art team actually made a comic which continues his story right after the event of the first season, so we get to see what he's doing outside the tournament. Yeah.
Okay. Is there, like, I mean, when it comes to media like that, is that freely available, or how do you guys release things like that?
Well, those well, for short comics, we usually just post them up for free on our Facebook pages and Twitter and all. That comic will be available. I think I gotta hold out on making the announcement for that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, but it will be available through.
Soonish?
Yeah.
Okay, cool stuff. So, I mean, we were asking Chiben what the sort of process was in respect to finding voice actors and being able to sort of, what the process was behind that. Would you be able to give us a little bit more info about that?
Okay, sure. Well, finding the voice actors. I mean, what in our case, what we did is we actually held an open audition to anyone who wanted to try voicing out these characters. And for, I think, like 3 or 4 days, we just well, first we sent out an open call, right? And we were quite surprised by the turnout. I mean, over the course of 4 days, we had over 200 people auditioning for. Yeah, damn is right. by the end of the day, we just all be curled up in the audio booth. As like, oh my god, so tired. But yeah, what we do is we'd prepare short scripts for each character, which sort of had the personality that we were going for with each character. So anyone who came in could read for anyone they want. We made those scripts available before the audition so that anyone can just read them and see what appeals to them, right? And yeah, so over the course of 4 days, 4 days, like 9-10 hours each, people would be coming in, auditioning, right? And on our side, I mean, because I was the voice director for both seasons, so what I'd be looking for on my end is a few specific things. Like, for example, first would be the quality of their voice. Does it fit the character that they're trying to audition for? Number 2 would be how easy are they to direct? For example, do they take direction easily? Like, can they perform the same lines in 5 different ways, which sort of like still have the same amount of emotion in them, right? And there was ability to take directions, quality of the voice, and the third thing would be more things like articulation, pronunciation, things like that, because we did want to market this for an international audience, so we had to be the voice actors had to hold up to that sort of standard, right? There wasn't any like clear accents which got in the way in the performance, and I think the last thing was just acting ability. How well are they able to act? Because you might have one or two of those things, like they have a very nice voice, they're able to take direction very well, but they can't act, right? So you're right, because so that would cause a problem. So I was like sitting there with a piece of paper, like checking all these things off with each person that came in, and a lot of people who came in reading for one character, we after hearing their voice and the kind of performance they gave, if it wasn't right for the character that they were auditioning, we'd sort of like advise them, could you try out this character or something else? Right? Mm-hmm. For example, the voice actor for Miles, right, the grumpy old mechanic, Ian, the Ian McNally, he's an Irish guy. He actually auditioned for Rex at first. But in his voice, we heard this. There's this wonderful quality in his voice. It actually sounds like a motor. There's a right. So like
chewing on gravel.
Yeah, right. So we asked him to try it for Miles, and in the end, it worked out there. The person who auditioned for Tamira, who ended up getting the role, she actually auditioned for Mika at first, right? But because Mika, she's very excitable and very bubbly, open and fun, and her voice was more, subdued and quiet. So we actually pushed for her to audition for Tamira more. So that's roughly how it went over the course of those 4 days. And after the open audition was over, then we'd have our own private set of auditions because we do know some people who do voice acting for a living, and they came up with their own list of people in the business who they thought might be right for the roles. So that was a separate set of auditions that we had to go through as well. But these were more like preferred or professional people doing it. Yeah.
And I'm assuming that included Chi Ren.
Kieran was one of the shortlisted because when we designed Sunny, we had him in mind. I think I told you. I think he told you the story last week.
Yeah.
How when we there's like a whole bunch of characters pasted on the wall with their finished designs, and I mentioned to him, we might have an idea. We might have a role for you in this. He takes one look at the wall and says, "I'm the fucking bear, aren't I?"
He mentioned that last week.
I think he mentioned that last week. Plus the design of Sunny, with the cargo pants and with the collared shirt and that physique, that is Chiren. That's all Chiren.
Okay.
So, it's weird that even when writing his lines or what we do, we can't separate that image of Chiren from Sunny. So,
But he did mention last week that it sort of becomes if you work with these characters all the time in all different aspects, like in animation, in rigging, in writing, in voice acting, and everything, it becomes like referring to people, referring to actual beings.
Yeah, true. I mean, at the beginning, they're just characters who you give a name to and you give the look to, but they're kind of an empty shell. But as the project develops and you start giving these characters a voice and motivation and stuff, as the series developed, they turned into real people, right? And they're developed enough when like our animation team would understand, like, oh, he wouldn't say this, oh no, he wouldn't do that, as if they're real people, right? So you when they're developed up to a point where you can get a feel for what they would or would not do, that already implies that you've sort of like got into their heads, where you understand their thought process, their motivations, their likes, their dislikes, their manner of speech, or things like that.
If people that aren't that connected to, dare I say, like the storyline or the writing behind it, if even they can like look at something and say this doesn't fit with this character, then those characters are very, very well developed, because they are quite removed from the writing table, but they still know what's up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I mean, for people developing the project, obviously they put like a lot of thought into it and spent a lot of time with these characters. But for someone who's just coming in to watch, they don't think about all that. It's just either it works or it doesn't, right? And the more I feel like the more effort or the more thought you put into something, it carries through somehow. Even if, for example, even if you designed a whole backstory for a character, right, which has shaped the character to what they are when you present them, when you present them to the audience, right? The audience, they might not know that backstory, but they will get a character whose every actions or words are already informed by something which has already been thought through. Did it? I'm not sure whether that came out right, but yeah.
Yeah.
Seems fun.
Yeah.
Right. Something that we sort of mentioned off air while you were setting fixing your setup is with regards to the characters. Yeah, here comes the furry question. With regards to the characters' sort of visual design and the dare I say, like, choosing of their like animal avatars, let's call them that, their animal shapes, sizes.
Yeah.
Like, what drives that for each character? Like, why is Sunny a bear, for example, or why is Rex a rhino? Stuff like that.
Okay. Besides one thing we deal with, I mean, especially, I remember you mentioning that you were an English lecturer, right? And you deal with tropes and character archetypes are something which can be latched onto very quickly, right? So there are, I mean, the whole point of archetypes is that you don't have to spend as much time informing the audience; they can latch onto it very quickly, right? So you'd think like the big, like a brooding, like muscle for hire sort of character. Obviously, you think his physique would have to reflect that, right? So we go for a bigger character. So, one thing that informed us in the animal picking decision making, one obviously is the visual elements. Like, should they be big and strong? Should they be small and fast, right? And the second part of that decision making was sort of it's sort of a disappointing answer, but more like a gut feeling. What this character's personality, what kind of animal reflects that? So you have someone who's very quick, agile, wily, and smart. Yeah, you'd think, okay, maybe a fox, or someone big, jolly, loud and brash, right, and funny. You'd think, okay, maybe a bear, right? Someone mischievous would be a monkey, right? So it was a balance of those two things. One, just what do we need visually, and what animal in real life already has some of the qualities of the character that we're trying to portray, right?
Yeah, that's a very cogent answer. Thanks.
Yeah. Actually, pretty cool. Like, I'm busy looking at helmet designs now. All of a sudden. Obviously, and weirdly enough, between Crom and Rex, Crom obviously has that sort of like elongated thing for his muzzle, I guess, and then Rex
that
doesn't
helmet brings
necessarily have.
so many
Yeah.
production problems because
Okay.
well, first of all, it doesn't make sense. How would you put that helmet on? But it works in the context of the show. I mean,
Yeah.
the one problem that animators frequently bring up is that he can't open his mouth too big when he's got the helmet on, which kind of makes sense. Silly.
It's a good
Yeah.
thing he doesn't talk very much.
Yeah, it's mostly grunting and
Constantly scowling.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you guys had a choice of accents and things like that when it came to a lot of the characters here. I mean, Tamira has a very sort of African accent to her. Crom, No?
Yeah.
and then Crom has a more of an Australian accent, things like that. Were those obviously like along with the tropes that you guys were thinking of? I mean, very many of them have the sort of generic American accent. But what were the choices for that? Like, was that just because voice actors had those accents? Were those the things you were looking for, or?
That's an interesting question, actually, because those were discovered. Well, not discovered. We came to them by. It wasn't in the initial design of the characters, and in fact, it's not something we even thought about, because we didn't want to be too rigid in deciding the voice of these characters, because it would be nice if the voice actors sort of like bring their own thing into it, right? And we riff off that. Like you say, Tamira has a very, what did you say, African accent?
African
Right?
accent, possibly
Well,
Congo.
It's actually a Chinese girl. Her name is Sherilyn Pang, right?
Huh.
And that is her natural accent. The thing is, she's a Chinese girl, but she grew up in an area over here called I think it's Bricksfield, where most of the residents there are of Indian descent. So it created it affected her accent a bit when she's talking English, right? So, yeah, so that's a weird story over there. Yeah. For Crom, the Australian accent, the first time he auditioned, it was actually without the accent. But he thought, can I just throw in an accent maybe, just try it out, see where, and it sort of worked, especially since Crocodile, Australian, it sort of ties together better, yeah. And it stood out from the rest, right? I think he's the only one with a really discernible accent among the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
So the accents, they were sort of either we came across them accidentally, or it was like a purposeful decision to shape them in a certain way. For example, like Miles, I mentioned the actor is Irish, right? Yemi Ali. He had to, for Miles at least, he had to really tone down the accent, the Irish accent, to make it more like neutral, American neutral sort of. Yeah, it still comes out once in a while.
Hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. You have no idea what it's like to sit in a session where it's just, tag, grab the car. Like, car, car. What did I say? And you have disagreements over weekend and weekend and garage and garage. So, yeah, there's a lot of...
Garage.
Garage.
Yeah. Because I mean, and I actually I still remember I was looking over the credits at one point and I saw McNally and I was like, that's the reason why he says car the way that he does.
Yeah, right.
And it's weird though, because I remember now I've watched the series twice, and I think the first two episodes, he actually says car an inordinately large amount of times. And I'd noted this, and I was sitting there going like, how and why? And then I saw McNally, and I was like, aha, okay.
Yeah, but those early episodes were really rough. It's like we're still trying to like find the vibe of the series in the early episodes. It just became easier as we went along, like when we understood the characters more, and what was the initial topic? Accents, right? But our main concern was just to be more, what's the word, palatable to a Western audience or international audience. We wanted to make sure that it didn't. Well, our goal was to get at least neutral accents for everyone. No one really indicative of where they came from or heavy accents. Yeah. So that sort of informed us in choosing the cast members as well. Yeah. How well could they deliver without having a heavy accent get in the way of the performance? Yeah.
Okay. Now obviously, if we look at Disney and some of the things they do in respect to their production, they tend to sort of take the movements of their voice actors and try to incorporate them into their. Was there ever a person who was like overly active while they were voice acting?
I think all of them really got into it. Got into it. I don't think there's many points in season 1 at least where any of the characters get physically active most of the time, but even if the character didn't call for it, the voice actor in the studio they'd be bouncing off the walls and stuff. I mean, they were really having fun. The voice recording sessions are always fun, right? Mostly because of the voice actors really being into it. In most cases, you'd actually have to dial them back a bit, just so that we could get the job done. Yeah.
Okay. Since we're probably going to be talking about race cars at some point, one of the questions that I do happen to have is, I mean, while you were considering, the types of cars that they're going to be driving, I know that I mentioned last week, and this was a question that Shiren actually said that I should probably be asking you, is like your main influences in respect to the cars themselves and their respective drivers. I mentioned the idea of questions, Wacky Racers from Hanna-Barbera, and then he also mentioned Fast and Furious.
Ah, okay. Are we talking about car design or?
Well, I mean,
just the inclusion of cars, or
both. I think round about both of those questions.
So the approach to storytelling behind it, I think, as well, was one of the things.
Well, yeah. I mean, people bring up Wacky Racers a lot, which is weird because the only thing I find in common is that it is a sort of like some tournament, and there's lots of different, wildly different characters and wildly different cars participating in that tournament, and I think that's about the only connection I can find between this and Wacky Racers. I don't think Wacky Racers was so much of an influence on the design of the show or the story design.
As much as it was a coincidence, as much as it was sort of a coincidental overlap kind of thing.
Yeah, all right. Aside from the fact that it has different types of characters with different types of cars in the tournament, I don't think there was that much of a tie between them. But I think Chiran mentioned last week something about the having this whole tournament drive the story of the show as well, right? And and he was having difficulty, writing stories and for just action, right? Because in the end, it's the people behind the race which are the driving point of the show, right? The stuff they have to go through even when they're not racing, right? The whole drama around the tournament, not just during the race itself, right? And that was one of the. After we finished season 1, we sat down, for the things we'd like to sort of like improve on or fix for season 2. That was one of the things that we really wanted to make better for season 2, so that because in a lot of cases you have like there's a general issue in one episode, and then there's a race in a specific weird place, but they don't really connect, right? So one thing we tried to do in season 2 is to tie the races closer together with what's actually happening in the episode. For example, it makes a stronger story or a stronger episode overall when what's happening off the race affects what's happening on the race, or what's happening on the race affects what's happening off the race, right? And there's like a theme which sort of ties those two on and off things together. For example, in episode 2, in season 2, without going into too much detail, there is one episode where everyone publicly makes their alliances known, and some of them are expected, some are not, right? And the episode's name is Lines in the Sand. It's like drawing a line in the sand. Which side of the line are you on, right? And that sort of ties it into the design of the track itself, because we're thinking that lines, sand, it could mean like a desert or a really rough sandy place, or something with lots of lines. Could it be a labyrinth, or could it be where the roads constantly intersect, cross each other, right? And so we wanted to tie everything in more coherently, so it didn't seem like one section of the episode off the race, one section on the race. We want to blend them together.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, cool.
And Scratch, do you?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah. I do have a question about staff and staffing. And this is a question that's been sitting in the bank for the last two, for this one and last week's one. Do you have any closet furries?
Any closet furries? Well, if they were closet furries, I wouldn't know, right?
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean,
right? I wouldn't know. I mean, I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know.
Random guess.
Probably, yeah, probably. I would, yeah.
Because I mean, you know what? We haven't necessarily focused on you as much in this entire thing, so I do want to ask a couple of questions as to how you kind of got into the animation sort of industry, the backgrounding and everything like that. What exactly? How did you get drawn to this?
Okay. Well, let's go back for it. Well, as a kid, I've always loved I'm like a special effects historian geek sort of thing. Yeah. I remember, after finishing high school, you have offers to do like, robotic engineering or chemical engineering or all that. But I was thinking, I wanted to do art. I wanted to do art. I knew that from the very beginning. But there wasn't really many places to study the kind of art that I wanted to do, which was either, animation or, computer graphics and stuff, for entertainment purposes. Here in Malaysia, at least, there weren't that many places. But there was a place, Multimedia University, which was offering a computer animation course. So that's, despite having all the other offers, I'm not sure how happy my parents were about it, but that's the direction I chose. So I studied animation for 4 years, and after a few short stints at animation companies, I actually ended up back at the university teaching animation. Right? Oh. On the side, at least, because I was still involved in projects outside, doing all manner of things which needed animation for it. right? And in or around 2009 or 2010, an old friend of mine, the managing director of the company, Tariq, who I've known since I was 12, he approached me, and we sort of like built this idea of making an animation studio. So we roped in a few people. There were just like 5 of us at the start, and we set up Blue Studios in early 2010, right? And so for the first like 3 or 4 years, we were making shorts, working on small like commercial advertisement projects and stuff. There was weird story. Yeah, there was even a short gig with Cat Stevens. Once.
No.
Yeah. He came. He wanted us to do the backdrop of one of his music productions and stuff. So it was just a lot of different projects before Rimba Racer started to develop, and which was weird because at that time there were so little of us. There were just like 5, 6, 7 of us working out of a small house, and even when Cat Stevens was doing his discussions with us, when he said he wanted to wash his hands, and he'd go into the bathroom and there's only cat shampoo in there. It was a really like small operation at the time. Really like guerrilla animation. So it's only after the big funding came in and Rimba Racer started to kick off that we moved to a nice, proper studio environment. So I think that's where I am now. I mean, I still teach animation on the side. I'm trying to get my PhD research done again in computer animation. So I would say the thing that occupies my time most is either the studio work or my research and teaching work. So that's my relationship with animation in general. Yes.
Okay, but I mean, starting up a company must be very, very difficult in
tell me
senses.
about it.
Like, I mean, so many things that can go wrong, that probably do go wrong. Like, how does this probably does come back to the idea of like a day in the office kind of thing. And I mean, there are many people out there that are aspiring to at least get connected to either startup animation houses or already established ones. How on a scale, how difficult would it be?
Okay. Well, to start up a company, there's nothing difficult about that, and anyone can start up a company, but it's getting a company which is sustainable through a product, which you can commercialize. That's the hard part, because obviously money, right? You need to keep the money rolling in. Or at least have a source of money which you can draw from to keep the company running, right?
Yeah.
So I think the hardest part is coming up with a product which actually resonates with people. I mean, like any business which puts things out. And in the case of animation, I think in a lot of cases it's actually a matter of timing, like what's hot at the moment, what's not, right? I mean that certainly makes things easier, right? But of course, having a good quality product helps, right? Something which if you're doing like an animated series, something with good storylines or interesting characters, I guess that helps move your product a bit further.
Understandably.
Right? Yeah. But coming back to, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head when you said it's not easy. I mean, animation as a business, animation is fun. Yes, it is fun to do it. But animation as a business, that is a whole different story over there, because whoa, I don't even know where to start on this. Anyway, it's a good thing that I'm not too involved in the business aspects of the company.
Mhm.
Right? I'm more on the production and the creation side of it. But just making sure your product, like no matter how good it is, if you're not able to push it through the right channels or through the right people or through the right medium, if no one sees it, in the end it's a flop anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the the marketing side of it, which is more of a struggle in many ways than the actual production of the project. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, developing those kinds
Wow.
of connections and putting out show reels and all that kind of stuff, that must be a mission and
Yeah.
a half.
Yeah, true. Our managing director has, I mean, I think he's aged 30 years over the past 10 years, just
Yeah.
going around, flying here and there, meeting people, making connections. Yeah.
Sounds
And,
like ours as well, yeah.
Yeah, but again, I mean, I believe that hard work never goes unrewarded, and yes, his hard work has hooked us up with people who we would never have thought to meet all those years ago. Yeah, and they've lined up things, upcoming things for our future as well. You know, things which I never would have seen coming. But it does take a lot of effort on your own part to go out and seek these people and make these connections. You can't just expect them to happen based on your product or you actually have to make an effort to go and make these things happen. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, especially
That's
in a I almost want to say a world so saturated with media coming from all different angles. It's really hard to differentiate yourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
but
True.
if
I mean,
yeah.
we're talking to this guy, Eric Pearson. He's an animation producer over in a neighboring country. He was saying that at all these animation, not conventions, what's the word? The marketplaces for animations, right? There's just so much content going on. How do you get yourself noticed? Right? And he was saying that there's in many cases there's a lot of animation which is being given out for free, even whole seasons of it, just to start the conversation rolling, between merchandising, acquisition people, right? I guess it's like an app store, right, where there's just so much content. How do you get yourself noticed out there on the front page, or people can find it easily, right?
Yeah.
That's tricky.
And even if you do get onto the front page, you are noticed. Like, you have a window of like a week to maximize of that, and then
exactly.
you
Yeah.
slip
So again,
into the echelons.
a case of timing. Yeah.
For sure.
True. Yeah.
With us, with designing apps like that, it's the same thing. Sorry, Ava, go ahead. I'm done.
No, I mean, and like it's little things like that I mean, us as a podcast out there, we have very similar issues when it comes to, who our guests are and things like that. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to try to have fun as much as possible throughout the entirety of the show and everything like that. It's just that, I mean, it's all good and well to have fun. On the other hand, it also has to be as informative as possible. We need to take time to be able to, do whatever we possibly can. And I mean, like, it's always difficult because, I mean, especially with your first season, I'm assuming that like you have a sort of set of fans by now that are constantly like mailing in and asking particular questions. And
oh yeah. Yeah.
the whole interview thing must be tiring after a while, I'm sure. But I mean, and like, to be able to maximize on things like that must be super difficult because you only have so many hours in a day, and it's like, obviously if we'd done this at 8 o'clock, it would be 2 a.m. at your side, and that would have been just rough. But I'm sure that, like, and I think Ren also mentioned that, it's not it's this wouldn't, if we did do this at 2 o'clock in the morning, it wouldn't been the first time that it would have happened.
Uh, uh, well, I think it'd be a very different kind of interview. I
Yeah.
think it'd be a bit more loopy than this. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, about getting the animation out. I mean, it's sort of almost. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a hard set rule, but in many acquisition cases, at least, they want at least 26 episodes before they start, acquiring for broadcasting. So, and that kind of makes sense because that's like 26 episodes is like half a year, half a year of if you screen it week by week, right? So it fits into their broadcasting schedule a bit easier and stuff. And 13 is just too little. So so in most cases, yeah, they want a full 26 episodes before we can even have a conversation about, selling it to broadcasters or airing it on certain channels or networks or stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole reason behind season 2, is just to get it up to that 26 episode mark.
All right. Yeah. Have you guys started working on season 3, or are you waiting on what happens after season 2?
Oh well, season 2 is pretty much finished already. We're wrapping it up, and I don't think I'm at liberty to say what comes beyond that. But there's definitely some plans continuing from season 2, right?
Okay.
Plus, it's written in a way where there's more to come. So if it ended there, that'd be pretty sad.
Yeah. No. Then weirdly enough, you'd probably have a couple of relatively sad people here in South Africa, myself included. So the decision to put the series onto Dailymotion, obviously we saw that there was a YouTube, or at least I saw that there was a YouTube channel dedicated to this, but YouTube was doing YouTube things, which kind of makes it difficult to sort of find everything. And when we saw the Dailymotion, at least again, like when I saw the Dailymotion like videos up, I binge watched everything, and then binge watched it again. But like the decision to put it up there is that's obviously if you guys get signings and things like that, I'm assuming that channel might go down, particularly because of this. Or what exactly is what's the premise here? What exactly happens from there?
That's a good question. I mean, I actually asked that very same question to our managing director, right? Like if it gets picked up by oops, almost slipped there. Yeah. But if it gets acquired by another network, right? Will they still allow it to be on? I'm not sure about that. I really can't say. I mean, that's all in the terms of whatever contract they set up, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but I'm not quite sure how that works because it is airing in several. I mean, it was airing in Singapore, in India, and some Middle Eastern countries as well. Mm-hmm. But apparently there's no conflict from sharing it up online. Maybe it's because it's at a lower resolution. So I'm not sure what the details are, right? Yeah. But whether or not it'll be taken down, I can't answer for sure. Yeah. I have no idea what the understanding or agreement is on that. Yeah. Okay. But season 2, I don't think it's going to be online up for free anytime in the close future, because I'm thinking when it gets acquired, I don't think they'll be too happy about it being up for free on that. Season 1, maybe because it's been over a year. We waited over a year before putting it up for free, right? So season 2, I don't think is going to be up anytime soon. Yeah.
It's a shame because I mean, obviously here in South Africa, like firstly, broadcasting rights are possibly the most difficult thing that you can get, and secondly, I mean, like I'm perfectly happy trying to find a way to get like the rest of the seasons as legally as possible. So I mean, if it does come on as like an online, like I don't know, what is Scratch the
Like a streaming service,
there's,
or
no, like there's a there are millions of online
Netflix, Hulu?
like
What are you talking about?
Netflix, Hulu, yeah.
Yeah.
If groups like that pick that up, I'm almost considering getting a Netflix account, first time ever.
Okay.
Particularly to watch one series.
All right. Well,
Yeah. So I mean,
no, go on. Yeah.
I go.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we're here. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering, like, if you had something to say about that, like, because I mean, obviously, like, some of us will miss out. I mean, it is obviously a Malaysian project, things like that. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily see how it comes to South Africa without like being 7 to 8 years later.
Yeah, as everything does.
Without going into too much detail, I'll just say that I don't think you have to wait that long. Yeah, there are things already set in motion where it'll probably be more accessible to people outside the country. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be really good, because I'm beginning to get edgy. I'm not considering watching it a third time now.
But seriously, I mean, season 2 has already been up on local TV, at least in Malay language. But I cannot wait for everyone outside the country to see season 2 in its original English form, because I'm really proud of what we did in season 2 and the storylines and where we took these characters, and I think Jiren was talking last week also about how you can make your first season without anyone like looking over your shoulder, right? There's no they're not how to say, they're not judging you on how you should make it. But after season 1, you got people on forums talking about the characters and stuff and what they wish would happen. That puts a bit of pressure on us, because now you have people who actually want to see the characters go this way or that way. And one thing I especially paid attention to is what people predicted was going to happen in season 2. So basically, it's take all those, compile all those notes and go in completely the opposite direction. Because it's. I mean, my favorite type of story is where you don't see where this is going or how they're going to fix things or make things all right again. Right, where you can't predict the outcome. I mean, that really makes me pay more attention, or keep me glued to my seat more.
It's not funny when you're watching a show where it goes and you just go, called it.
Exactly, it's no fun. It's no fun, right? But yeah, I mean, one of my Chiran pointed out where. I remember having this discussion with him once, where it's fun when things keep going wrong. You have the best laid plans, but things just keep messing up. An example of this would be like, I should have thought of an example before saying, Mission Impossible, like Ghost Protocol or Rogue Nation. They have like a pretty solid plan at the beginning, but things keep going wrong and they have to adapt, they have to improvise, and what they end up in the end probably isn't ideally what they wanted, but it works in a way, but it's not what they planned for in the beginning, right? I would say that's somehow what season 2 is like, where you have an idea of how things are going to be or how you want it to end, but it does not end up that way at all, and some characters end up in really weird places, and in places where you wouldn't expect, or or siding with certain people, or I just like how we didn't take a very predictable route to the end game of season 2. Yeah. Again, I can't wait for you guys to see it. I'm just excited. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm bated breath here. Huh. Okay. Yeah, so Scratch. I'm not sure how long we've been going actually.
We're on about an hour and 20 minutes now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it does go quite fast.
Right. I mean, I'm locked in a room with the curtains drawn, so I have no idea what it looks like outside. So time just flew by.
I'm assuming it looks like 7:30. Yeah. Well, look,
Damn,
One
that's
thing I
bright
do like,
outside. Ugh. Sorry.
again, just expanding upon the things we've done for season 2, is in season 1 there weren't enough episodes to cover a lot of the stories behind the characters and stuff, right? And in some cases they were just like implied. So like for example, we knew that sometime in the past, like King and Miles, they did know each other. They were friends. Or we knew that there was at some point in time where Sonia and Mika, they met up and became great friends. Or the whole circumstances behind, Tag's father, what happened, right? Or why is Axel where he is? What's his relationship with King? Right, those are stories we couldn't really expand upon because, again, the set number of episodes. So I'm happy in season 2 that we actually, since all the initial introductions are out of the way in season 1, you can actually dig a bit deeper into these characters and why they do the things they do, or why things are the way they are at the moment. So there are some interesting like character stories in season 2 as well, which I'm glad we got to do.
all right.
Yeah.
Just tell me quickly. Am I breaking up?
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because there was a. It tells me poor network connection currently, but yeah.
No, you're okay.
Whew. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Loud and clear.
Cool. Because I missed about like 10 seconds of that, but that's perfectly fine. So long as the audio is clear, then that's all good. Yeah. So I mean, beyond. I mean, obviously the question has to come at some point. What happens after Rimba Racer?
What happens after Rimba Racer? Well, I can't give away too much, but I mean, just on my side, just looking, at where we are in the company, I'm more thinking about what is gonna run concurrently with Rimba Racer.
Yeah.
Because we've got a few things lined up, and some of the Rimba stuff is definitely going to continue. So it's a juggling act. Yeah. You mean what comes after season 2 for Rimba Racer, or?
Well, both. I mean, like what happens, what comes after for the company, as well as what happens. What comes next? Where do we go from here? If everything's, sort of like on track for this, like obviously branching out for a studio might be a good idea. Those kinds of things.
Well, what comes after? Well, I think immediately right after we wrap up season 2, which is very, very soon. It could happen. Yeah, maybe next month or a month after that, we'll be jumping straight to another job, right? While the continuation of Rimba Racer is in development. Yeah, we'll be beginning production on something else. So yeah, the Rimba machine is gonna continue chugging, right? In what form, I can't really say anything about that yet. But yeah, it's definitely gonna continue. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good to hear.
No, that's really, really good.
Yeah. So the studio is going to expand from here. Is it? Yeah, because if the Rimba machine, if the Rimba Racer series is going to continue going on, then there's always this question of how much time do you spend in pre-production, kind of thing. Like, is Rimba Racer season 3 going to start in pre-production while the animation and production side is going to continue on with the new project or other smaller things, and then back to Rimba Racer, or?
Yeah, probably things will be running at the same time. I mean, one thing I don't think most people get is how small our studio actually is. We are a small studio, roughly between at the moment between 20 to 25 people, right? Which is like a very small number for producing a whole season of animation. I mean, if you count our animators, it's you hold up your fingers in front of you, it's less than that, right? So yeah, so we're a very small company. Yeah, modest budget, a very modest budget for the season as well. So when people keep asking, why does it take you like a whole year just to do this? I'm like, dude, chill. There's only so many of us, right? I mean, we expand or contract the number of people in the studio depending on need, right? How many projects are running at simultaneously and stuff, right? But when full production is in, then yeah, we gotta expand again, right?
Yeah.
So I think there was a question just now about the speed of production. Yeah, the speed of production is always tied to budget, right? And I mean, which makes perfect sense, right? So we've made 2 seasons of Rimba Racer. That's how many hours? That's around 8 to 9 hours of television, right?
Yeah.
Within the past 3-4 years on a very, very small crew. So if anyone's asking why it takes us so long to make it, that's probably why, right? we keep ourselves small. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So, I mean, like we were saying just now, I think maybe we can actually wrap up on this. So, I mean, how obviously you guys are trying to sort of go out as far as possible in respect to your reach and everything like that, and obviously you've reached us here in South Africa, which is great.
Yeah, we did not see that coming.
Well, yeah, I think you can definitely thank your marketing team for that. That in Norfarahani and
Kitty.
Yeah. Khadija, yeah. So I mean, we're trying to get as many people to watch it, at least on the Daily Motion side, since it is available there. I'm trying to get as many people to watch it as possible.
That's great.
Beyond attempting to force them to watch it.
But I hope they like it. I mean, I remember Tiran saying that, it's a matter of taste. If some people just don't want to see it or don't want to like it, that you'll never be able to force them to watch it or like it, right? But I do really hope there's something in there for everyone, even the casual viewer, right? Enough to keep them hooked or be interested in what comes next. Because I'm really excited about how season 2 will resonate with what the fans we already have or people just tuning in. Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking out a little bit of time for us and having an interview with us. We really do appreciate that.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, guys. I mean, I'm not even sure whether I did a good job of asking your questions, but yeah.
No, perfect.
Yeah, but it wasn't as... Well, it's pretty painless. It wasn't as terrifying as I thought it'd be.
We aim to make our guests as comfortable as possible up until a certain point. Like around the 2nd or 3rd time you're on, then it gets weird.
Yeah.
Oh, then it gets weird. The second or third date. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's where all the strange conversation comes out. We've had that happen on several occasions. Like I think we have a guest that pops on like every maybe at least 2 or 3 times a year now.
Yeah.
And conversations with him have sort of denigrated to like politics and in our communities and everything like that, and kind of sit there going like, woof.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of enjoyed how the interview just went into some really weird places. I mean, during your Chiren interview, right?
Yeah. We talked about gaming for 15 minutes.
Yeah. And movies and everything. And I had a Pacific Rim rant.
Oh yeah, the nuclear thing, right?
It's
analog, nuclear, and you with your engineering brain, you were having a massive facepalm moment there.
I think everyone in my circle knows about that because it just pissed me off so much.
Oh, you're not the only one, dude. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, I swear, I think the day after I saw that, I was like ranting about it to everyone. It's like, what? Does Gypsy Danger run on like a million hamsters on their wheels and stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
Unless there's a steam boiler somewhere that I don't see.
Exactly.
Nothing's gonna go down.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
Well, anyway, yeah. Without this turning into that kind of
That conversation
yeah.
again, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, Joe, thanks
So,
so much for
my
joining
point
us. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's something Tiran, but also something you guys were talking about last week about how animation is judged immediately as a genre, right?
Oh yeah.
As a type of film that it can be when it's really a medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you can present so many different stories through it. So I mean, just that whole Pacific Rim thing. It's just like you might have some animated series, animated films, which have a lot more thought being put into them compared to live action movies, right? So the medium itself isn't really an issue. It's more like the story you're trying to tell, or how well crafted it is. And,
yeah. Because I mean, there's only so much you like in a live action movie. There's sort of the belief is already sort of suspended, or disbelief is already sort of suspended because it is sort of in a real world setting. But because you're crafting something from the ground up, you need to set the rules of the universe and the interactions that's going on here.
Yeah. I think you brought that up last week also. The comparisons between film, which you only have like 2 hours to present everything, compared to the entire run of a TV series where characters can grow, develop, breathe a lot more. Right.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, if Rimba Racer was to be introduced like in a movie form at the very beginning, I don't think we could have done it within those 2 hours to tell everything about everyone. Right. That would have been so hard. Right. Yeah. So I'm glad that it's a TV series which we can actually space out and develop the characters deeper. Right. Yeah. Over the course of time. Yeah. A longer course of time.
Yeah, and the show only benefits from it.
Exactly, right. You will get people who are more connected to your characters because they understand them more. It's not a one note motivation thing. I have to do this just because it's bad, right? Or I have to, you understand their deeper motivation for doing stuff. Yeah. Right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I think we're running up to like an hour and a half now. So yeah, closing thoughts.
Just for anyone listening, just stay tuned for any Rimba news. There'll be some pretty big updates within the next few months, and keep visiting our Facebook page, and
you have a Twitter page.
Yeah, and we have a Twitter page as well. Yeah, you can sign on to that. And just keep supporting us, and we'll keep on making stuff for you.
Yay!
Right?
Sweet. Yay!
All right, awesome. But yeah, Joe, thanks so much for being on. This is really, really an amazing interview. Like we enjoyed having you on a lot.
Yeah. Right.
Really appreciate it.
You're gonna have one more with another member of our crew, is it?
Yeah, 2 weeks from now. I think it's it's not the 29th. It'll be the 5th of April of May. 5th of May.
Ah, okay.
We'll have the pre-recording on the 5th of May. I believe it's they sent an email here, and I'm sorry if I forgot their name. Great.
Should I put the jazz on again?
Okay.
No.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Melissa, right? So
yes.
There should be a whole. I think she'll be able to answer some of the questions you asked me today even better, because season 1 she was head of pre-production. That means all design, all stuff goes through her. And season 2 she's director, so you
Nice.
can ask her a whole bunch of questions on that as well.
Sweet, we'll do.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I think it should be Melissa. As far as I know, we don't have her bio yet, so hopefully Khadija sends that through to us.
All right. Sweet.
Okay, awesome. All right, thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate that.
No worries. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, and thanks for listening,
Cheers,
everybody. As always, we shall see you guys next week. Probably live. Probably, yeah. Hopefully
Odds
live.
are it is live.
Yeah. Cool. See you guys.
Okay.
All right.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.